What if the first true American muscle car didn't come from Detroit at all? What if it came from a small company no one took seriously? A company that quietly built a machine so powerful, it left the giants of the industry stunned. In the mid-1950s, when cars were getting bigger, flashier, and dripping with chrome, one humble automaker decided to do the complete opposite. No fins, no fancy slogans, no massive ad campaigns. Just pure power hidden beneath a modest body. That car was the 1957 Rambler Rebel, the quiet assassin of Detroit's horsepower wars. Built not by Chevrolet, Ford, or Chrysler, but by a small team at American Motors who refused to play by the rules. At a time when the world believed only the big three could build performance machines, AMC unleashed something that proved courage and creativity could outmuscle corporate power. This isn't just the story of a fast car. It's the story of how one bold idea nearly rewrote American automotive history, and how Detroit worked hard to make sure the world forgot it ever happened. But before we dive into how a family sedan shocked an entire industry, let's go back to where it all began, the moment a group of engineers decided to rebel against Detroit's biggest names. 1. The War of Detroit. In the mid-1950s, Detroit wasn't just building cars, it was waging a war of horsepower. Every year, giants like Chevrolet, Ford, and Chrysler battled for dominance with louder engines, longer fins, and more chrome than ever before. The American car had become a status symbol, a rolling statement of pride and prosperity. And if your car didn't turn heads, you were invisible. General Motors had the might of an empire. Ford was flooding the streets with innovation and style. Chrysler, with its forward-look designs, promised power and prestige. Each brand had deep pockets, aggressive marketing, and armies of engineers. It was a golden age of excess, but also of ego. Detroit's giants were obsessed with outdoing each other, and in that chaos, smaller companies were left gasping for air. Then came American Motors Corporation, or AMC, the result of a merger between two struggling automakers, Nash and Hudson, in 1954. On paper, they didn't stand a chance. AMC had a fraction of the budget, a fraction of the workforce, and none of the advertising muscle of its rivals. While the big three flexed their financial power, AMC built its reputation on practicality, small, efficient cars that appealed to families and everyday Americans. Under the leadership of George Romney, AMC refused to join the horsepower war. Instead, they marketed simplicity and economy, mocking Detroit's obsession with size and flash. But inside the company's engineering offices, a few rebellious minds were growing restless. They believed AMC would never earn respect until it proved it could stand toe-to-toe with the big boys, not with fuel savings or comfort, but with raw, undeniable performance. And so, behind closed doors, a bold new idea began to take shape. An idea that would challenge everything Detroit believed about who could build a real performance car. 2. The birth of the Rebel. It all started in early 1956 when AMC engineers decided to do the unthinkable, take their sensible, family-friendly Rambler and turn it into a street weapon. The goal wasn't luxury or comfort. It was simple, shock Detroit. They began with the Rambler's lightweight body, a car most people viewed as a modest commuter, and then dropped in AMC's brand new 327 cubic inch V8 engine. That was the same displacement found in some of Chevy's hottest Corvettes of the era. Only this time, it was inside a mid-sized family sedan. The result? A wolf in sheep's clothing. When it roared to life, the Rambler Rebel made 255 horsepower, a figure that might not sound earth-shattering today, but in 1957, it was jaw-dropping for a car its size. In fact, it was faster than many Chevrolets, Fords, and Dodges on the road. The Rebel could go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just about 7 seconds, a time that rivaled some of the most respected performance cars of the decade. But this wasn't just about speed. AMC gave the Rebel a unique identity. It wore a clean two-tone paint job, subtle chrome accents, and a Rebel badge that said everything without shouting. There were no gimmicks, no over-the-top styling tricks, just quiet confidence. Under the hood, AMC's engineers had fine-tuned the engine with a 4-barrel carburetor and dual exhausts, giving it a throaty growl that turned heads at every stoplight. They even experimented with something radical, a Bendix electronic fuel injection system. If it had worked reliably, it would have made the Rebel one of the world's first production cars with fuel injection, years before others caught on. But like many ideas ahead of their time, the system proved temperamental, and most cars reverted to carburetors before hitting the showroom. Even so, the Rebel didn't need flashy tech to prove its point. It was already rewriting the rules of what a mid-sized car could be. The name Rebel wasn't just a marketing term. It was AMC's declaration of war against Detroit's arrogance. 3. Detroit's reaction. When the 1957 Rambler Rebel hit the scene, it sent shockwaves through the industry. Nobody expected something this powerful, this fast, and this refined to come from AMC, the company known for economy cars. Automotive journalists were stunned. Motor Trend called it one of the best-performing cars of the year, and others labeled it the first true muscle sedan. It had the performance of a Corvette, the comfort of a family car, and a price that undercut nearly every rival. But while the public was intrigued, Detroit's big automakers were quietly furious. To them, AMC was supposed to stay in its lane, building affordable family cars, not street fighters. The Rebel's sudden success was an embarrassment. It proved that you didn't need a massive budget or flashy marketing to build something fast, innovative, and desirable. You just needed courage. Behind the scenes, AMC began facing subtle resistance. Suppliers who worked with the Big Three suddenly became hesitant to prioritize AMC's needs. Advertising space mysteriously grew harder to buy. Even auto dealers who sold multiple brands started feeling pressure to rethink promoting the Rebel too heavily. Detroit's message was clear: this outsider isn't welcome in our game. And to make matters worse, 1957 wasn't the best year to take risks. The U.S. economy was sliding into a recession, car buyers were tightening their wallets, and flashy performance cars were becoming harder to sell. So even though the Rebel earned rave reviews, AMC couldn't keep up with production demand or marketing muscle. Only around 1,500 Rebels were ever built, not because people didn't want them, but because AMC simply didn't have the power to go head-to-head with Detroit's giants. Yet, in those few thousand cars, a message was sent loud and clear, a message that echoed through Detroit's boardrooms. Innovation doesn't always come from the top. 4. The Rebel's mysterious disappearance. After the initial excitement, something strange happened. The Rambler Rebel vanished almost as quickly as it appeared. By 1958, it was gone from AMC's lineup, leaving enthusiasts and journalists puzzled. Why would a company kill off one of its most talked-about cars just a year after launch? Some claimed AMC simply couldn't afford to keep producing a high-performance car. The company was smaller, its factories were stretched thin, and with the economy slowing down, executives feared putting too many resources into a niche market. Others believed it went deeper than that. That quiet pressure from Detroit's powerful automakers played a role. Rumors suggested that AMC faced supply shortages, limited access to certain components, and subtle market pushback that made continuing the Rebel too risky. But there was also an internal struggle brewing inside AMC. George Romney, the company's president, had a very different vision for the brand. He didn't want AMC chasing speed. He wanted it to stand for smart, efficient design. Romney believed performance cars were a distraction, a flashy symbol of excess during an era of growing financial caution. To him, the Rebel represented everything AMC shouldn't be. So, while car fans celebrated the Rebel's roaring V8 and bold identity, AMC's leadership quietly shifted gears. They pivoted toward compact cars like the Rambler American and the Classic, practical, affordable, and fuel-efficient. It was a strategy that kept the company alive for a few more years, but it also meant burying one of the most groundbreaking muscle cars before the muscle car era even began. 5. The legacy that lived on. Even though the 1957 Rambler Rebel disappeared from production, its impact echoed far beyond its short run. In many ways, it was the blueprint for what would soon dominate American roads, the muscle car. It arrived 7 years before the Pontiac GTO, 8 years before the Oldsmobile 442, and almost a decade before the Chevelle SS. AMC had unknowingly lit the fuse before Detroit even realized there was dynamite. The Rebel proved that people wanted more than just big, heavy luxury cars. They wanted speed, personality, and something that broke the rules. And while AMC didn't have the money to start a full-blown performance revolution, the Rebel's influence could be felt everywhere. Engineers who worked on it went on to inspire designs in later AMC legends, like the Javelin and AMX, cars that continue to challenge Detroit's arrogance on racetracks and highways alike. Collectors today see the 1957 Rebel as a turning point, the car that hinted at what was coming. Its 327 V8 engine became the stuff of legend, capable of going head-to-head with the best from GM or Ford. And that lightweight aluminum intake, cutting edge for its time, was a glimpse into a future where innovation mattered as much as raw horsepower. In hindsight, the Rebel wasn't just a car, it was a statement. A message from a small automaker daring to say, "We can do it better." It was AMC's moment of rebellion, both in name and in spirit. 6. A symbol of defiance. The 1957 Rambler Rebel didn't just challenge Detroit's dominance, it represented something much bigger, a spirit of rebellion against conformity itself. At a time when most automakers were obsessed with chrome, tail fins, and marketing hype, AMC took a different route. They built a car that wasn't about show, it was about go. It was honest, fast, and raw, built by engineers who wanted to prove that innovation didn't require billions of dollars or massive factories. The Rebel became a hero for the underdog. It stood for creativity over corporate control, courage over compromise. In an industry where everyone followed trends, AMC broke them. And even though the company would later fade away, that fearless energy carried on, inspiring the next generation of car enthusiasts who believed that passion mattered more than profit. Over time, the Rebel gained a cult following. Collectors began hunting for the few surviving models, not just because of their rarity, but because of what they symbolized. Owning a 1957 Rebel wasn't just about driving a powerful classic, it was about preserving a piece of history that dared to stand up to giants. And while AMC never got the recognition it deserved during its lifetime, the Rebel's story now serves as a reminder. Sometimes the most important revolutions start quietly, far from the spotlight. 7. The forgotten blueprint that shaped Detroit. Looking back, it's clear that the 1957 Rambler Rebel was more than just a one-year experiment. It was the car that showed Detroit what the future could look like. The Big Three might not have admitted it, but they were watching. And within a few short years, they began doing exactly what AMC had done first, dropping powerful V8s into midsize, affordable cars. Pontiac's GTO, Chevrolet's Chevelle SS, and Ford's Fairlane GT all followed the Rebel's formula. The so-called muscle car era didn't begin in Detroit. It began in Kenosha, Wisconsin, with a company everyone underestimated. But AMC never got the credit. History tends to celebrate the winners, the brands with big budgets and bold advertising, while the innovators get left in the shadows. Still, the Rebel's DNA is undeniable. Every time a muscle car revs to life, part of that sound echoes from AMC's forgotten 327 V8. In the decades since, automotive historians have started to re-examine the Rebel's place in history. Many now call it the first true muscle car, acknowledging that AMC beat Detroit to the punch by years. Even modern car enthusiasts, raised on Mustangs and Camaros, are beginning to rediscover the Rebel and appreciate its role as the original disruptor, the one that dared to scare Detroit. So, while the Rebel may not have won the sales race, it won something far more lasting: respect. It proved that innovation doesn't need permission and that sometimes the boldest ideas come from the smallest players. The 1957 Rambler Rebel wasn't just a car, it was a declaration. A statement that even the smallest automaker could stand toe-to-toe with Detroit's giants and win, not with money or marketing, but with raw innovation and courage. It defied expectations, rewrote the rules, and quietly sparked a revolution that would define an entire decade of American automotive history. While it never sold in massive numbers, the Rebel's influence became impossible to ignore. It planted the seed for the muscle car movement, showing that performance didn't belong only to the elite. It belonged to anyone bold enough to challenge convention. Today, every surviving rebel is more than a collector's piece. It's a symbol of resistance, of creative spirit, and of what happens when engineers chase passion instead of profit. The rebel might have been silenced early, but its roar still echoes through history. Because sometimes, the true legends aren't the ones that last the longest. They're the ones that dared to go first. If you enjoyed uncovering the forgotten story behind the 1957 Rambler Rebel, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of innovation, rebellion, and automotive legends that time tried to erase. Thanks for watching. This is Gear Ghosts, where the past never stops driving.